Well, my first take was a bust. Let's see if number 2 will work out. Forward Man. Forward Man, you all know him. He's a commenter on my videos, a friend of this channel. Watched an old video I made on LARP bows. And in it, I mentioned that I had done a video on a certain living thing that I had taken down because I didn't want to encourage over-harvesting. Well, this natural substance, chaga, is a word for it. Region of Siberia, because it was big in their medicine. And in northern climates here, we share a lot of the same trees as in Russia and Siberia. But chaga is one name. The North American name for it, the natives, First Nations people called it skatagan, which I think is just as festive as chaga, you know, as far as sounding. But there was a glut of videos on it because people discovered it. You know how people discover a certain medicinal substance and then suddenly everyone's an expert and they're doing videos on it. There was a bunch of goofballs that didn't know what they were doing, showing how to gather it in the warmer months. Well, chaga should only be gathered in very cold months, after the tree is definitely dormant, you know, for it to have effectiveness. And people are just going out and gathering it willy-nilly. And that's why I took it down, because I didn't want to contribute it. But, you know, now that the cat is out of the bag, I should mention that, yes, if you're going to go gather chaga, that's what I was talking about. Forward Man, do some research on it. It's an amazing, amazing substance, natural substance. Gather it when the trees are dormant, or else you're just wasting your time and you're wasting a resource. It has to be cold. Okay, on to some comments by the Energetic Heretic. Our channel's mad scientist contingent, and I say that jokingly because brilliant person, he has the periodic table down pat, chemistry genius, and can do all sorts of stuff, as you will see if you go to his channel, Energetic Heretic. And he was kind of joking about this thing, which, you know, has happened to me. You can see, and let me bring this one up, and this one, and of course this other one. You can kind of tell that I generally paint bows. My bows, to me, tell a story. And I'm not saying that just people that paint bows are, but if you make bows, if you make atlatls and darts, or do anything in the primitive arts type of region, in some ways you are on the shaman scale. And you know, gosh, how can I say this? You know, I kind of have that feeling, you know, that what we're doing when we delve into these things, it touches the past and the present and the future. You know, it goes beyond just the physicality of this thing. There's something about it. You know, we're just in a long chain of people. You go back 10,000 years, those people were just like us. They just had a different life. You know, just like somebody from Idaho would go to California and it would be a different life. But we're all people. We were all people throughout time. Now, in the case of this definitely demonstrates North Pacific style art patterns, design elements. You know, everything on here has a certain meaning. And when I go into that, you know, definitely I'm going to take this and I'm going to design something with a specific set of the design elements. I want to do it in the most respectful way. I'm not trying to steal anything. I just respect it. I understand. That's important. I understand what these design elements mean, and I'm able to tell a story with it. Not just like a monkey going and typing away letters and stuff like that and creating like this page of writing that doesn't mean anything. I do my utmost to understand the design elements and put them together in a coherent story. Now something like this, and I've caught a little criticism for it because it is a takeoff of a Moeller-Gay bed bow. And when the Moeller-Gay bed bow was produced, this wasn't around, you know, as far as we know. And so people are questioning, some people, and then I hopefully explained it, why I do things like that. Why are you putting runic writing on a Mollergay bed bowl? Because they didn't have runic writing then. Well, I don't view this bow type as one point in time. I mean, it started off a certain time, but it still exists. And we, who are incorporating older ideas, meaningful ideas that we understand, you know, this is not an 8,000-year-old bow. This is made within the last month, you know, and definitely these writings were around. Now, as far as these themselves, this is a bind rune. You know, it's a combination of things that not only have certain letters, but runes are interesting. Each character, because it's a letter, you can write with it. You know, you could make out a grocery list. But then it goes into each one of these, Anzas and Gabal, for example, they have an affiliated thing, you know, with it. Burkano is the easiest one. Burkano, B, letter B, our current letter B, because, you know, our written language originated from that, so in many ways we're still writing with runes. But Burkano, that character, is a B, but it also stands for the birch tree, and then the birch tree has certain significance that has meaning. And so this is why I like these, you know, because it's not just on the surface. I'm going to write out, John made this bow, you know. You put it together in a binder and it creates something else. It tells a story, and this bow definitely tells a story. As far as cultural appropriation, that irks me, you know, because all of us are taking elements that have been created by other societies and cultures, you know, and then we combine them and we change them and we use them for our own purposes. Our letters now, you know, A, B, there isn't a C in any of these things. D, E, F, G, you know, it goes on. H, Helgas, which has significance as far as being the elemental ice crystal whence everything else originates from. Stories, you know, are used currently. We just don't recognize it. As far as specific Nordic runes, okay, Old English runes, Germanic, you know, they all had their different little idiosyncrasies, and so you can't even say that, like, I'm using these and so I'm going to Scandinavia. That's not true, because they were used in other areas. Actually, if you study things, you know, you can see the ebb and flow of people. Side note, I find it interesting that if you look at royalty amongst Spain, Italy, France, England, Denmark and stuff, you know, they're all related. It just shows you how things ebbed and flowed. Okay, now on to this, which was of particular interest to our friend Energetic Heretic, because I showed you originally that chain right there. Definitely Celtic. But it also contains something. It also contains something that you may or may not have seen. The Triskelion, 3 in spirals. Now, you may say, how dare you put a Triskelion on a home guard ball? Well, first of all this does is demonstrate the outline of it, which has probably been used in different bows at different times. And it's not accurate to the 100th of an inch, you know, to the original. And it's definitely not, you know, following the exact dimensions thickness-wise. And it was not even finished yet, so this is a modern bow. Based on Holmegard, probably shares a lot of elements in common with a lot of other bows in other areas at different times. But this is a modern bow. This tells a story. Now the Triskelion, for example, John, the Celts aren't known for their bows. They probably had bows, but they were known for other things. But that is right there, that little doohickey right there, is a Celtic design element that is also a Mycenaean design element that has also been seen as spirals and 3, grouping them together, on the walls of caves. And so a person in the Celtic culture, you know, a long time ago, probably could have said, That's cultural appropriation because you're stealing that from the Greeks or the Mycenaeans or cave paintings. What's important is not looking at that and saying, oh, you just put a pretty design, a Celtic design on it. But going deeper and understanding what that means to the story of this bow. Now, I'm not going to get too heavy into like my views on things or what it means to me. This is my bow, and so I can decorate it any way I want, to be blunt. But what I do is not just random and not just, that's pretty, so I'm going to stick it on there, you know, and put a bunch of other pretty things, getting back to like that monkey just typing letters on a typewriter. It has to be a coherent story. No, I am not, as of this video, going to do this knot pattern, this Celtic knot pattern, because it's nice, but it doesn't describe anything to me. What does it mean? It's pretty. It has to go beyond that. Now, the Triskelion here, these three spirals, and spirals, look at spirals yourself and think about it, you know, just like a rune. Ponder it, the mystery of that design element. What does that mean to you? Well, you know, the three, and going into a spiral, which is kind of like abstract, you know, and it's at its root, three, you know, mind, body, spirit, then, now, and to be, you know, which I follow a lot. If you look at my talisman bows, the writing on there, it's actually Old Norse and then in runes, so you can't just translate the letters and get an English thing. It's Old Norse. It basically means, you know, what was is now again, you know, from the shadows of the past returns my companion, is more literal. And that is describing that bow. That's what describes all bows to me, whether they're painted or not. You know, you can say that in some ways bow makers are shamans because they're crossing these vast periods of time and contacting our ancestors. The Triskelion could be as it once was, is now, and it will be. You know, three things: mind, body, spirit. What would be another one? A bow, string, and arrow. You know, you could take it literally like that. And I may, in this field, do a stylized arrow, which is a John design element, even though that's been done in the past. If you look at, say, designs of Modoc bows or, you know, some other West Coast natives, they would put design elements that included arrowheads or arrows or what have you on the bow, telling a story. Now, let's get back to this. I don't want to convey that I catch grief over anything. I used to. Oh yeah, I used to catch a lot of grief. People would come in and just, it's gotta attack people, so I was the target of it. And one was, why do I call this a paddle bow? Paddle bows are short, and it doesn't look like a West Coast paddle bow. Well, I would ask you, have I ever once said this is a reproduction of a Hoopa or a Modoc or a Klamath or any other tribe? No, it's not. I would also ask you, did they call their own bows paddle bows? Maybe in some respect in their own language, you know, because they resemble paddles. But I've researched that, and I did not find that in their native languages they called their paddle bows paddle bows. Why are they called paddle bows? Because they look like paddles. And who first called them a paddle bow? Could very well have been just a white guy. You know, hey, look at that bow, it looks like a paddle. It's a paddle bow. And so I'm not treading you know, anybody's religion or faith or nationality or culture, anything, when I call this a paddle bow. It's a bow that looks like a paddle, therefore it's a paddle bow. Do I say it's a West Coast paddle bow? No, I don't. I say it was inspired. And not so much, well, partly probably because of the looks. I love the looks of these things, even though it does look like a Sudbury in many ways. People have said, John, it looks more like a Sudbury. Well, it's a bow that looks like a paddle, so I call it a paddle bow. First of all, I like the way it looks, but second of all, you know, from an engineering standpoint, it's a beautiful design where you get the majority of the bend and it widens and thins, which is good from an engineering standpoint. You can get a long draw from a relatively short bow. You could get a longer relative bend in it than in this bow because, you know, it's narrow and thicker. But that's it. What else should I say? I don't know. Looking forward to 2020. It should be a good year. Still looking forward to figuring out what this one is going to be like. I may have answered some questions. I may have just rambled and wasted your time. That is up to you to decide. I have now stuff to do, and tonight going to a New Year's Eve party and bringing probably a mandolin and a violin because it's one of those kind of parties where people come and play, and that's going to be enjoyable. Still up for grabs. This is just a heavy tillering string. I just wanted to see how it was balanced after I put the rawhide on it. It was balanced before, but after, it's good. Nice ball. Oh, probably heavier than 45 pounds. It's probably 50. But uncalled for. Uncalled for.